Hancock made $630 million at the box office. The original cast wants to do a sequel. The fans want the sequel, so why hasn't the sequel come yet? Hint: Will Smith has something to do with it. Hancock was a very unique superhero movie. Unlike other superhero movies where the good guy has everything figured out, he's a billionaire, all the girls love him, he stops the bad guy with a flick of his wrist, and everyone praises them. Hancock is different. From the moment we saw the trailer for the movie, we were hooked. Will Smith did an amazing portrayal of a flawed human being who has the problems of a regular Joe. The only difference between an average Joe and Hancock is that Hancock is basically like Superman. Sony's 2008 Hancock had a budget of $150 million, and it starred Will Smith. At the box office, the movie made $630 million. It was a financial success. The fans loved it, so it was very popular. However, no one thought about doing a sequel, despite all the good things this movie had going for it. Now, before we tell you what the other actors think about the Hancock sequel, and how Will Smith might have forever ruined the future of Hancock 2, let's do a little recap. The movie begins with Hancock, a bitter alcoholic who somehow has superhuman strength and endurance, is invulnerable, and can fly. However, unlike a regular superhero, Hancock is hated by everyone he meets. Why? Because when he saves someone's life, he damages everything around him. However, one man he saved will change his life forever. Ray Embry was almost hit by a train, but Hancock saved him. Being a public relations specialist, Embry decides to help Hancock as a form of thank you for saving his life. He advises this anti-hero to smash that like button just like you should do if you haven't done so already. No, in all seriousness, he advises Hancock to apologize for all the mayhem he caused in LA and face justice. Hancock is reluctant at first, but then agrees to go through with the plan. Now, we're not going to tell you about all the times he beat up bad guys for calling him an a-hole, but we are going to tell you that Hancock hates that word. He goes to trial and is sentenced to 8 years in prison. Now, while he's serving his sentence, willingly, they call him to save some civilians from a group of bank robbers. After completing the mission, Hancock is praised as the hero of the town. Ray invited Hancock to his house for dinner. Hancock tells them that he doesn't remember anything about his past. He's an amnesiac and an immortal that woke up 80 years ago. For some reason, Mary, Ray's wife, never liked Hancock, but that night when they're alone in the kitchen, the two kiss. And then the most unusual thing happens. Mary manages to throw Hancock straight through the house wall. Hancock isn't the only one with superpowers. Hancock wanted an explanation from him, but Mary told Hancock that she is his soulmate. They are the last angelic pair alive, and for 3,000 years, they've been together. The other such pairs found human soulmates, became mortal, and died. After a violent battle in the city, Ray finds out about Mary's secret, and he isn't happy about it. Hancock leaves, but is wounded by a bullet when he tries to stop a robbery. He's rushed to the hospital. Mary visits him and tells Hancock that she left him because he didn't remember her when he woke up from his coma. The best thing she could do now was to leave him. Hopefully, the farther apart they are, the more powerful Hancock becomes. The closer they are, the more vulnerable they become. That's how Hancock wound up in a coma the last time they were together 80 years ago. And remember those criminals that robbed the bank? Well, they weren't too happy when Hancock cut off their leader's hand. So now he's come to seek revenge. Mary gets wounded at the hospital by Parker, the leader of the bank robbers. Hancock can't protect her because he doesn't have his superpowers. Thankfully, Ray chops off Parker's other hand before he murders Hancock, and then he uses the axe to kill Parker. But Mary's life is in critical condition. The only thing Hancock can do now is to get himself as far away from Mary as possible. With no powers, the only way to achieve this would be to jump off the hospital. As the distance between the two grows, Mary recovers, and just before Hancock hits the ground, he regains his powers. The story can be continued, but what does the cast think about a remake of Hancock? Well, let's start with Peter Berg, the director of Hancock, who said, quote, "There are so many cooks in that particular kitchen that are so busy, and Will Smith's kind of taking time off to be with his kids. To get us all in the same room where we can talk and then agree on everything? You'll never meet a group of people who will have a harder time agreeing on anything." Will Smith, on the other hand, said, "The ideas aren't developed, but we are building out an entire world. I think people are going to be very surprised at the new world of Hancock." Charlize Theron said that she would love to reprise her role in a sequel working alongside Will Smith, but this was in the past. Maybe she's changed her mind in 2023. Well, not really. In 2020, during an interview, she said that she would be happy to smash that subscribe button just like you should do if you haven't already. Oh gosh, now seriously now. She said she'd be happy to come back and do a sequel to Hancock. However, she did admit that the movie has not made any progress since 2008. But that's not entirely true. We know for a fact that they were working on a sequel in 2009. We also know that Columbia Pictures tasked Glenn Mazzara and Adam Fierro, two amazing screenwriters, to pen the sequel to Hancock. They even had plans to bring the production team from the first Hancock back for the sequel. We didn't hear much from either Will Smith or anyone else from the cast and crew for 3 years. Then, in 2012, Berg came out and said that he had plans to make Hancock 2 in the future. He didn't specify anything, but he seemed to be hopeful about the project. So, what happened? Why did they quit their plans to make a sequel of Hancock? We know that it's difficult to get the schedules of two major stars like Charlize Theron and Will Smith to coincide, but it's not impossible. What was the real reason they didn't make the movie? Well, first of all, it's not just Charlize Theron and Will Smith who have to agree on the movie. There's an entire production team and a crew that needs to come together to make Hancock 2 happen. And at the moment, they are all busy with other projects. Charlize Theron is now part of the MCU with her role of Clea in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. The writers were both hired to write for The Walking Dead, so they don't have the time to do it. And Glenn was too busy with his work on the movie Battleship to focus on other films. On top of all of this, Will Smith isn't going to be focusing on any movies since the Oscars fiasco a year ago. A lot of critics and fans ostracized him for slapping Chris Rock for a joke he made about Jada, his wife. He resigned from the Academy, all while being banned from his Academy functions. Now, how long is that ban gonna last? Well, officially, it's for 10 years. The decision of the Academy is going to mess up a lot of Will Smith's plans for future movies, and this places Hancock 2 in jeopardy. However, if Hancock taught us anything, it's that a person with a troubled past can make up for his mistakes if he apologizes. That's what Hancock did, so maybe Will can use the movie as a little inspiration for his personal life. Of course, we can't forget that despite the Academy ban on Will Smith, Apple TV Plus released Emancipation in September 2022. Will Smith did a spectacular job in the movie, but what does this mean for Hancock 2 and the possible release date of the movie? Hopefully, it only opens the way for Hancock 2. You'll love these videos next!